Do not ever justify, because that's something that I have found myself doing, and a lot of my students I work with, they like to justify because they say, well, I don't really have anybody else. I should, you know how it goes. You justify keeping them on. So justifying is very, very dangerous on that side of things, extremely dangerous. And it can be a major blow to your business, because when you start justifying, then what you're doing is you're taking the power away from you being a leader in your business, and you're giving it to somebody else on your team and let them control your business. So justifying is extremely dangerous on that side of things. And that's something that I think it's extremely important for people to understand. And another thing too is, once you realize somebody is not an A player on your team, and you do everything, and you've done everything you can as a leader, okay, you cannot force them to be an A player. They've already made that decision in life. So that right there is another thing, is don't go in thinking you're going to change somebody that way, and don't try to justify, man. And those are two big lessons that I learned on that side of things. And once I learned those, Scott, it was a light bulb moment for me, and it really started changing things, dude. So
that's, I mean, honestly, that right there is a key. So I'm going to kind of reiterate what Jerry's saying here, is because we've all done it. We all have. I have 4 job openings right now, and you would think with COVID and everyone that's laid off, that I would be getting hundreds of applications a day right now. And we're talking jobs that'll pay 6 figures in most cases, and I'm not getting applicants. So what a lot of business owners do is they realize how long it takes to actually hire someone, and how much time it takes to train the person. And you figure 50% of the time that person doesn't work out. So when you look at that, it is easier to justify keeping somebody on that is doing 50% of what you want them to do, because it's harder to go out and find someone else, train them, build the relationship, see if they're going to work, continuously training. It's a lot. If you look at just the systems you have to train somebody on to start, acquisitions, running comps, how to talk to sellers, all this kind of stuff. You're not talking about 2 hours and they're off on their own. You're talking about potentially hundreds of hours training this person. And if you put all that time into someone and you realize, if I let person A go to hire person B, I have to put all this time into person B. You know what? Person A right now, I mean, they're doing 50% of what I need them to do. They're still bringing in money. I'm just going to leave them there. They'll get better. We've all done it. We've all done it. But that is a weakness. It is a true weakness, because us as leaders in our business, our job to make the business survive comes to bottom line. It comes to those KPIs, so key performance indicators that we're tracking. And if someone is not meeting that, and they're not going to meet that, meaning you've given them every single ability you can to help them grow, and they're just not grasping it, or they just don't want to grasp it. You know, for me, I judge it, and I don't know how you do this side, but I judge a lot of it as, acquisitions team, if they clock in at 9 and out at 5, they're not going to work for me. I mean, there's no way that's going to work, because someone that is potentially paid 150 grand a year has to answer a phone call at 7 o'clock, has to answer a phone call at 6 a.m. Yeah, you can't work 9 to 5 in a position like that, because I'm going to ask you a trick question, Jerry. What are the standard hours most people work? Bankers, everything like that. What are their standard hours?
Their standard hours on the banker side of things is those daily 9 to 5 or something like that on that side of things. But what's interesting, Scott, you nailed the head, hit the nail right on the head there. We always tell people that when we bring in like acquisitions people, it's like, you got to understand that, you could be not saying you have to be on there all the time, but the thing is, if you don't take some ownership of that, You can miss one call on an evening or a Saturday, and that could be $10,000, $12,000 in commissions to you.
That's it. So it comes down to, so if someone's working 9 to 5 on the banker side, and that happens to be your customer, and the acquisitions person's working 9 to 5 here, the banker gets off work. Yes, they want to sell their house, but they call you at 5:30. This guy's already clocked out. How do you close a deal, right? And I've heard a lot of acquisitions people say, oh, if they really want to sell, they'll make time. No. Flip that shit around. If you really want to acquire the deal, you will make time, because the way acquisitions works is you have to be available when your customer is available, not the other way around. So I think so many people, I think acquisitions is generally the highest turnover, right? Because someone has to continuously perform. And I mean, my team out here, I give my acquisitions people and my team unlimited vacation. I don't put a number on their vacation. Take vacation if you want it, but here's the caveat. If you go on vacation, your work phone stays here, which means you're on vacation. So you don't get new leads while you're gone, because if you're on vacation, you need to be turned off of work. So here's the thing. They don't take a lot of vacation because they don't want to lose the leads, because that hurts them 30 days later, right? But for the person that takes their phone in the office, if it's already a deal they're working on, we help them and we don't take their commission. We'll close it for them. But new leads are paused, because you of all people know when you go on vacation, if you and Joyce leave, you go on vacation, you don't want to be taking phone calls the whole time. You want to sit on that beach, you want to have an extra drink or 2 or 3 or 4, and you want to just hang out, right? But you don't want to be answering phone calls the whole time you're there. You got to separate yourself, because that resets you. And that's why, I offer the vacation, and some of them take it, some of them don't, but I encourage vacations, right? Because you got to reset yourself. Now, I had one guy that he took more vacation than he was in the office. He didn't care, and he's no longer with me. So when you look at team members, they have to buy into your vision. But you have to be very clear on your vision with those team members. You have to let them know what your expectations are. So,
Jerry, that's a good point, Scott. That I just want to share on that. The vision side of things is something we stress on all the time, where we're bringing that up really weekly with the team, what the vision is on things, and sometimes multiple times a week, what that vision is, because people, and especially, and you know this too, man, is that so many people we work with are not used to our type of thinking. They don't understand the way our minds work. They don't understand. They don't read what we read. They don't watch videos of what we watch. They don't do these things. And what I found, man, was that one on that, it's our job as leaders to make sure we share that with them. But at the same time, they have a responsibility to feed on this and then run with that. And if they do, it makes a big difference on things. But it's so what happens on that is people, once they start understanding that, they start looking at things different. And then you find people that, that they really take ownership of their position and their box on things, versus that, like you said, that you check out at 5 and go home, just come back in at 9. That, I always tell my team, I said, doing that versus being in a position where you take full ownership is the difference between somebody making $50,000 a year in sales or $250,000.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the difference. So
I've ever heard of a salesman that does the bare minimum that keeps his job long term. It just doesn't happen, right? Sales is one of those like dog eat dog industries. You definitely have to be pushing hard every single day. And I guess one thing to kind of say is everyone is entitled to a bad day, right? Things happen. There's deaths in families. There's girlfriend and boyfriend breakups. There's all these things that happen that affect the mind, right? And we are so close to my team that when something happens, we know it. We know it just from the conversations on the phone. and we know something's going on. And everyone's entitled to a bad day. But one thing we do very well is we support our team. When something's going wrong, we'll take that person to lunch and just say, hey, we're not here as bosses right now. We're here as friends. What's going on, right? I mean, something's obviously eating away at you today. What is it? And a lot of times we'll spend an hour, hour and a half at lunch. We'll even have a drink and just sit and just have a conversation. And you know what? Like, my team feels comfortable sharing that with me. And I think that's so good because, number one, like, they have to feel comfortable coming to us on things, but it also answers a lot of questions for us because it shows us, hey, he's not closing these contracts because he's distracted, right? And a lot of bosses that don't care, they're going to be like, hey, you're distracted today, just go home, right? It doesn't work like that. You got to support your team every day. And I've seen you post, your team going out to dinner, doing things like that. And that's fantastic. We do a lot of the same type of things. So, besides focusing on KPIs, because that is the business side, that is us saying, do your job or you're gone.